Aloha, government seekers. What is up? I am back after an illustrious week in the Hawaiian Islands. Go over a week. Yeah, I haven't done a show in over a week, I think. I wish the show was sponsored by the Zevia sodas, but I love them. They're stevia sweetened. There's not a paid advertisement. We don't have advertisers because no one wants to advertise with a nutbag show. But they're really good. They got a little caffeine, but no sugar, no sucre, no artificial sweeteners. Oh, they're just delicious. And they match my background and my Star Trek Next Generation shirt that I'm wearing. I know it's May the 4th. But you know what? The Force is always with us, guys. I don't need a special holiday for it. You know, it's like Valentine's Day. Every day is love for me. So I had a fantastic time in Hawaii. Thank you to all who came out to the shows on Maui, Kona, and Honolulu. They were a blast. I'll be in Arizona next week, Phoenix, May 11th, and Tucson, May 12th. They're small little 100-seat venues, so get your tickets, guys. Come out to the shows. Hello, Holly Horn, our moderator, and everybody else in the chat, and everybody watching on Lee Camp's YouTube and my YouTube. Please subscribe to either one of our YouTubes. It helps both of us. Everybody watching over on the Rockfin. Hello, Dave Bird over on the Rockfin, and share this on your social media. Like, share, subscribe. So let's do it, ladies and gentlemen. It's time for Government Secrets with the two most censored comedians in the world, Lee Camp and Graham Elwood, episode 121. A new theme song.
Hello, good sir.
How are you, buddy?
All right. But I can't believe you would come on this highly respected podcast and promote your goddamn product placement, stevia soda, your shitty chemical tasting swill you drink. So now I've got to compete with that with my own product placement.
What are you drinking?
Whiskey. And I was just paid by whiskey. I was just not any specific one, just whiskey.
I like how you're drinking whiskey out of a coffee mug like some old blues musician, you know, just like we got old Whiskey Jones blowing the harp, how, and just like a little something extra in my coffee this morning. How you doing?
Am I not an old blues musician? I feel like I'm pretty much the same. No.
Yeah, pretty much, Lee. That's how I view you. I view you. Your comedy definitely comes from the Mississippi Delta. That's how I feel like it is.
Yeah, straight from the Mississippi Delta. Let me tell you about how I ordered something at Starbucks yesterday and it took way too long. That's how this one goes. We've all been there.
Just a lot of lead guitar.
As a little something. So this next one goes out to Henry Kissinger. Really, the heart and soul of this next song.
Oh, I got the Raytheon blues. I've
got the depleted uranium blues. Yeah.
This is off my new album, Cancel Student Debt.
I think I need to do that now.
I think we both need to write a lefty socialist blues album, it sounds like to me. So how have you been, buddy? I haven't seen you in a couple weeks.
I'm doing all right. I have barely but successfully moved to the top city in America, what many would call the heart and soul of America, Baltimore.
I love how when you were living in DC and when RT got shut down, you're like, I have no reason to live in this part of the world. I'm out. And then back to Baltimore.
Listen, that 40 minutes makes a big difference. Makes a huge fucking difference. DC has no soul. DC is, it used
Right.
to, it used to be, you know, it's called Chocolate City. It used to have a very, very important black
Mhm.
culture to it. Now it is just gutted and soulless, and it's lobbyists and the second homes that the lobbyists buy for their nannies, that they really just have as an investment property, but they let their nannies stay there in the meantime.
That sounds great. That sounds like everything that's great about America all wrapped into one city.
Absolutely. Because, you know, there's 23 lobbyists. Well, these are old numbers, so it's probably much higher, but there were 23 lobbyists for every congressperson like 10 years ago. And so DC is not Congress people or government. It's lobbyists.
Oh, God. And actually, I make a joke, but actually, I've performed in Baltimore numerous times. I really like Baltimore. It's actually a cool little city, and it's nicely situated in that you're close to all the other major cities on the East Coast without the, like, it's not too congested or too as pricey as like New
Right.
York is or whatever, or DC's nanny state.
Right. And I only noticed this today, that there are bumper stickers that people have that say Baltimore. I actually love it. I just like that they have actually in there.
Yeah, it's one of those cities that's like, it's always gotten a bad rep for so long, but you go there, it's like Cleveland. Like, Cleveland's awesome. Everyone bags on Cleveland, but it's like, I've had a great time in Cleveland and Baltimore.
Is Cleveland awesome though?
Lee Camp, you live in Baltimore. Let us not throw stones in our glass house, buddy.
Well, I judge Cleveland purely by the sushi, and
well,
not good last time I was there. Not good.
Really has to, the blame goes on a guy that's getting sushi in Cleveland. That's really where
get sushi in Cleveland once, shame on them. Get sushi in Cleveland twice.
Dude, I remember it was like 2015. I was on the road with these Gary Brightwell and Danny Villalpando, and I forget the fourth comic. And we were doing a series of like Air Force bases. We were doing like military shows, and we started the tour in Altus, Oklahoma, which is in the middle of nowhere. We did our first show, and what happened to my camera? Oh, not this crap again.
You were just looking too hot, Graham.
I know, it's too much sex appeal, too much raw sexuality. The camera couldn't handle it.
Melted the face off the camera.
Oh,
I mean, but this little stick figure they have in your place is not bad. Oh, we got chest cam.
Oh, chest cam, and then the thing painted on the bottom. Are we really gonna do this again, robots? God damn it! I blame Chat GPT for this. Everything was fine.
Why do you always have multiple cameras, but that you're not using? Why is there always a camera pointed at a mattress or your nips or something?
So I'll explain that, Lee. It's not as you make it sound like I have all these bizarro cameras float that I just like.
This is for your what's it called? OnlyFans, fans only that you do after
OnlyFans. Yeah, pretend like you don't know what
after.
OnlyFans is, Lee. Play dumb. I love it. Yeah, I don't know what's that weird sex porn thing. I don't know. Anyway,
oh no, I can tell you 10 of the best porn sites you've ever heard of. But I've just never been to fans only OnlyFans.
I'm going to start going to OnlyFans because I've been demonetized. I'm going to start a foot fetish page, because I've gotten photos so I've like taken photos just me like on the beach or whatever, and then I remember one time I was like Instagram. I just panned across, like I just got done surfing. Oh, there's my surfboard. There's the beach, and you kind of saw my feet, and you just went across, like beautiful beach day. And I got these DMs that are like, "Hey man, do you got any foot photos?" And I was like,
did you really?
Yeah. So I was like, maybe there's a whole market for me. But let me go back to the Altus, Oklahoma story. We did a show in Altus, Oklahoma at an Air Force base, and we were all set to fly out the next day, and an ice storm came in, and we were stuck there for 3 days, staying at a Holiday Inn Express in Altus, Oklahoma. Altus, Oklahoma is a mile long, and there's a Walmart at one end.
Express means you get half the day, right?
You
sleep quicker.
Yeah, you get in 4 hours. You're totally rested.
Okay.
It's fantastic.
Yep.
But there was a street was a mile long, and there's literally like a Walmart, a Whataburger, a Burger King, a Kentucky Fried Chicken, and an Applebee's, and then a sushi place. And so we ate at the Applebee's every night. Like that was the only place. We'd like have the free breakfast buffet at the Holiday Inn, and then have to get dinner at the Applebee's. And after like the third night, these two comics were like, I can't do this. We're going to try the sushi place. And I was like, are you sure you want to do this? And they were like, I just can't eat Applebee's again. Like it's the same. We can't do it. And was like, all right. And then finally the next day
all the sushi was raw Angus beef, right?
Well, the next day we're meeting in the lobby. We finally, the weather cleared and we were able to fly out. So we're like in the lobby waiting for the car to take us to the airport. And me and Gary Brightwell were like, so how was the sushi? And they were just like, oh, one guy did not feel well.
Really?
The other guy, oh, and it was like, it tasted like leather. It was just like, I'm like, that's weird that the sushi in Oklahoma wasn't that good. You would think Oklahoma's proximity to the ocean would have brought such fresh fish to it.
That's crazy. That's really bizarre that it wasn't good, because I heard that a lot of the tuna in the cornfields in Oklahoma is some of the best in the world.
Well, Oklahoma's known for its eel.
Yeah.
It's the best eel.
Yeah. Oklahoma, it's known as in many places.
Oklahoma. Fucking idiot.
I mean, you see that. You see the T-shirts everywhere. Yeah. Yeah.
Oklahoma, home of sushi. Yeah. It is the sushi. They call it the sushi belt. Oklahoma and the panhandle of Texas.
The sushi belt. Yeah. Totally. The eel is actually fished out of a variety of toilets in the area.
This actually comes from the eel has come up because of all the fracking and the like 200 earthquakes they've had in Oklahoma. Eels have come up from the center of the earth.
It's from the center of the earth. Yeah. It's a very rare form of eel. Yeah.
They're good though. They're so good.
Fracked so eel.
Good. Yeah, you got fracking eel. So folks, please go visit the Sushi Belt, which is Oklahoma and the Texas Panhandle. But anyway, buddy, let's get into our first.
Let's do it.
Oh, taking a week off was great, and I missed these insane tangents about nothing about sushi. They're so great. I think we should.
You already. I can't remember since we had a week off whether I said this on the show. Did I tell? Because you mentioned ChatGPT. Did I tell you that? Did I tell you that I found the way to get the truth about anything on Chat? Oh, I texted you. The truth on ChatGPT is to say, give me the history of Christopher Columbus in the style of comedian Lee Camp. And then,
it was. You sent that to me. I was like, oh my God. I was kind of scared. Like ChatGPT terrifies me. I think it's going to be
it will wipe out, like, once it gets even better, it'll wipe out so many jobs, which this is the thing no one talks about. If we were to be adults and have a rational conversation, we would say, hey, let's wipe out those jobs and still pay people, and we could all have a wonderful life and not have to work so hard. But like, think of all of the meaningless journalism that is written, like sports articles, and it's all like that could all be replaced. Reviews of articles, reviews of things, like criticism of stuff. It could all be replaced so easily. Humor is like, if you're good at it, they haven't replaced that yet. Eventually they will, but for now, I think we're safe for another 10 years.
The jobs getting wiped out is scary. People not using the creative parts of their brain anymore to just like, oh, let ChatGPT, like, I don't have to do a second or third draft of this. Just let chat do it.
Right.
That's scary. What's really scary is like, ChatGPT, impersonating somebody's voice. Like wow, the ChatGPT sounds like Drake. And everyone's like, who cares about Drake? What if ChatGPT goes, hey, pumpkin, it's your dad. Can you open the door? Like to some teenage girl, you know what I mean? Like there's that.
And once the deep fakes of taking our face and pretending like we're speaking get really good, which, 5 years, they could, like, ChatGPT could take my face, have me say the things that it's written, and then, like, legit, we could all just be replaced. Like,
Yeah, but it's not even, I mean, there's that, but then there's also like, if ChatGPT can just impersonate someone, it's like, hi, this is General so-and-so at NORAD. Here are the launch codes, and then go through all the safety protocols that we have in place. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
oh, like, am I the only guy that watched War Games in the 80s and the Terminator? Like,
Well, but Graham, as we've learned, there are a lot of precautions to launching a nuclear weapon. So
sure.
we don't have to worry about that.
Yeah. And we were just nearly attacked by balloons, so I feel safe.
Once ChatGPT gets a hold of those balloons, we are fucked.
Oh, thank
Oh,
God. It's just nuts. I mean,
God.
when the poor defenseless Pentagon was attacked by balloons, I was scared.
Balloons and crickets. If ChatGPT gets balloons and the Cuban crickets, oh, it is ugly times.
It's if the Pentagon is so threatened by balloons, it's literally like that's their Achilles. You know, like a really vicious dog, you could just scare it with a vacuum cleaner and it'll run away. Like that's all you got to do is scare.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's the Pentagon's vacuum cleaner. Absolutely.
I gotta write that down. I'm putting that into a bit. But while I'm writing down a bit, why doesn't Lee do segment number 1 on Government Secrets, episode 121?
All right. So you slightly mistitled this episode. I don't want to confuse people. The Brits did not bomb Jews. They bombed ships that were going to contain Jews. So it's very close.
I'm sorry. That's a huge mistake on my part.
So this story has been verified. Much of it is quotes from actually revealed documents that MI6 and the British government had to reveal. So it's not a question mark. It's not a theory. It has been proven. However, that being said, there still aren't that many good articles written about this operation in 1946 and 47. And so the one I'm mainly going to be quoting from, unfortunately, comes from the Daily Beast, which is a pathetic pile of propaganda wrapped in like sticky dog turds. Like but that is what the Daily Beast is.
Right, because the Daily Beast smeared you. Didn't they call you a Russian puppet or whatever they've called it?
Oh, they did a whole article on how me and several others are Russian puppets. But I've been the center or kind of the center of two separate Daily Beast attack pieces, both of which were filled with lies and broke every journalistic standard in the book. So consider that my ad for Daily Beast.
I'm pushing plant sweetened sodas. You're pushing the Daily Beast as a pile of lying dog shit. So this is our two sponsors for today's episode.
These are the two sponsors for today's show. The Daily Beast. If you're lacking in lying dog shit, the real runny kind, then sign up for Daily Beast.
Do you want to wipe your ass on the carpet? Then you're the Daily Beast.
However, they're one of the only articles. There's a few other articles on this, but so this is from the Daily Beast. But like I said, I verified it, so I know they're not full of shit. And actually, I will give one sentence of their ridiculous propaganda at the end of it. But all right, so it's 1946, 47, right? These are Jewish survivors of the Holocaust that are deciding where to live. Many did go to Israel, and as a Jew myself, Jewish born, atheist by choice, I completely understand that these are people who survived the most horrific thing in the world, and they're looking for somewhere to live, and they thought Israel was going to be that answer, and now Israel has turned into an apartheid state, or I guess was from day one. I don't blame them unless they were really acting in this way. But so Jewish survivors of the Holocaust trying to make their way across an often hostile Europe, so it wasn't just the Holocaust. It was anti-Semitism everywhere and so many things they had to deal with, all their possessions, all their losing half their family, everything else. The World War II ends, and they think they're headed for some safety. And now we know that literally British secret intelligence MI6 planted bombs on the transport ships for Jews headed to what was known as Palestine.
What? Like the war's over. That we found the camp. It's 47.
It's over.
The camps have been revealed. We know how awful. Like the Nuremberg trials have started. We all of the evils of the Nazis and the Holocaust are now out in the open, and the Jews have gone through awfulness. Everybody's lost family members, and they just want to get out of Europe because they weren't treated well in Europe. Because this is the other thing too. You can't just blame Hitler. There was a culture around that was like, yep. The minute the sort of anti-Semitism started, people were like, yeah, get rid of them.
Well, anti-Semitism was not just Hitler.
No, it was not at all. He just stoked the fire of it that was already there. But I mean, there was a documentary, I think, on Netflix about this woman talking about her family. It was a little girl, and they lived in Hungary, and everybody got along. And then the Nazism started to rise, and her people they thought were friends and neighbors turned on them, just turned on them. And so so after all of that, they're like, we just want our own land. We want to be left alone. You're telling me British Secret Service said, not so fast, old boy.
Let's bomb their ships. So this was revealed by distinguished British historian Keith Jeffrey in a book he put out a few years ago. And it revealed the existence of this operation. Graham, you love operation names.
My favorite.
This is a multiple choice for you.
Oh.
Was it Operation Holy Fucking Shit? Operation British Assholes? Operation Embarrass? Operation Whoopsie? Or Operation Bomb Jews a year after they survived the Holocaust?
Ooh. Lee Camp, I'm going to have to go. Operation Embarrass, my final answer.
Oh, he nails it right out the gate. Right out the gate. Operation Embarrass, which it turns out has been incredibly embarrassing to the British government.
They literally called it Operation Embarrass.
Operation Embarrass.
I was picking the least obvious joke one. I thought they were all joke ones.
Well, you nailed it, my friend.
Oh, God. And they're
I think it's pretty early in the episode. We've already had 2 stunned silences from Greg. Okay, and I got to give credit to Dante in the comment section who said Operation Holy Fucking Shit was in 49.
You're right, Dante. Thank you. I had my years mixed up on that one.
Years wrong, yeah.
Oh God. Operation Holy Fucking Shit was where what? They just bombed the remaining gypsies in Germany or something. What did they do in that one?
Yeah. They fired actually bags of shit at the black people surviving the Holocaust. Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that the Holocaust was not just Jews. It was mostly Jews, but it was millions of others. But anyway, Operation
Gypsies, artists, anybody. So anyway, sorry.
Operation Embarrass was a plan to try to prevent Jews from getting into what was then called Palestine, 46 to 48, using a combination of disinformation and propaganda, but also explosive devices placed on the ships. And this is not some speculative spy story. It's been published it's in their own words, published with the permission of the Secret Intelligence Service and the controller of Her Majesty's Stationery Office. It's shameful that Britain blew up humanitarian. Oh, wait, I want to get to that actually later. But it now emerges that in late 46, the Labour government of Clement Attlee asked MI6 for proposals for action. This is a quote. Proposals for action to deter ships' masters and crews from engaging in illegal Jewish immigration and traffic action, adding, action of the nature contemplated is in fact a form of intimidation, and intimidation is only likely to be effective if some members of the group of people to be intimidated actually suffer unpleasant consequences, unquote. So don't just intimidate them, harm them.
And they didn't want them to go to Palestine? Or is that what that was the goal?
So I'll mention this later, but it seems that it had to do with their trying to curry favor with Arab nations who did not want Jews coming to Palestine. And probably, it doesn't say this, but I'm guessing it could have also had something to do with the fact that Britain owned Palestine then, quote unquote owned, in a colonial sense. And so it's possible that they were trying to stop Jews from getting there because they didn't want to lose Palestine to an Israeli state, a state of Israel. But what's included in one of these articles is that it's because they were trying to curry favor with Arab nations, which they desperately needed at the time for oil.
Oh, there it is. There it is, right in the center of the whole thing. Oh, oil. That's right. We need oil. So we're going to bomb people that have just been tortured for the last 8 years or whatever. So, okay. Nice.
Among the options contemplated were the discovery of some sabotage device which had quote unquote failed, like a fake device that had failed to function after the sailing of the ship. So basically making them think a bomb had been placed on the ship, scaring others from going. Then also tampering with the ship's fresh water supplies or the crew's food. Oh, good. Poison all the crew. That's nice. They could have given them Oklahoma sushi.
That's all I had to do. Give them some Oklahoma sushi.
Especially, can you imagine Oklahoma sushi in 47?
Oh, God. That would have been gnarly.
It's literally just a guy biting off the head of a fish.
just putting a tail between two rice crackers. There you go, sushi.
Yeah. And then and a fire on board the ship while it was in port. The chief of the SIS, Sir Stuart Menzies, suggested these could be blamed on an invented Arab terrorist group called the Defenders of Arab Palestine.
Oh,
let's throw some racism in there, some crazy ass. And let's also further racism. Let's let others know that these horrible things are being done by invented Arab terrorist groups. And
let's keep doing that 80 years later with the invention of ISIS. let's keep doing that.
Well, and then we fund and arm various tentacles of ISIS or of Al Qaeda, so that that serves our purposes. Operation Embarrass was launched after a meeting held in February 47, between officials of MI6 and the Armed Services, the Colonial Office, and the Foreign Office. The Operation Embarrass team was the Embarrassment team. The Embarrassment team was.
They all have matching uniforms that said "embarrassed" on this.
Operation Embarrass the UK Empire.
Colonel Montgomery reporting for Operation Embarrassment, sir.
Did your accent just trail off into?
It was very vague. I went all over the UK and probably parts of Eastern Europe by the end of that accent. Is where I went. Just dabbled into Romania. And
how amazing is that you got a comedy podcast with two guys who all of our accents start off sounding a little British and end sounding Russian in one sentence.
Yeah, I have two accents. I have like British and then just foreigner. I have just a vague sort of foreigner, like, where are you from? What are you wanting for me? And that could be anywhere.
Could be anywhere. Yeah.
Anywhere.
Just
anywhere.
Slightly deeper. You leave out a couple of participles and
literally anything east of the English Channel that could cover. Just, where are you from? Like Saudi Arabia. That guy could be Poland. It doesn't matter.
There's some guy watching right now who has that exact accent. And he's like, I didn't realize I sounded like everybody.
Show me your papers. Your papers, please. Is that German? Where's that guy from?
I have no idea where that is. I have the Southern accent, and then I have an amazing Cockney accent that sounds like this. How y'all doing today? That's my Cockney.
that sounds like South London. I mean, I feel like I'm right there.
Felt like you were there, didn't you? Yeah. The Operation Embarrass team was told that the primary consideration was to be that no proof could ever be established between positive action against this traffic and His Majesty's government. Isn't that the motto of the US-UK foreign policy nowadays? Just don't tell anyone we did this. Just whatever you do.
Can you keep this one under your hats? This is all
and-
falls under the Operation Embarrassment umbrella.
Just every policy we have, just don't tell anyone that's our policy. Can you do that for us? Just Jesus. Because if the things said in this meeting and all of our meetings get out, then it's looks bad.
It's not even a threat to national security. It'll really show how dumb we are.
It shows we're dumb. It shows we're fucking maniacs. And
psychos.
So let's just everybody stay on their toes, all right? And don't tell anyone we're doing any of this shit.
Roger that, sir.
Nailed it. Yours is a cross between some sort of British accent and that old news speak. Like, here's what we're gonna do. Say,
yeah, it is. That's right. Reporting from all the ships at sea. That's right, sir. We've got Operation Embarrassment.
I heard why that accent got created. Was because in the early radio days, the high end came through much better than the low end. And so they learned to speak like that so that it would come through on people's radio.
Oh, really?
Like, this is the news at 1. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Well, maybe that works for YouTube. I'm going to speak this way and try not to be demonetized anymore.
A special communications network codenamed Ocean was set up with a budget of £30,000, $47,000, which is a lot of money in 1947. The operation had 3 aspects. Because you got to remember, sorry for so many tangents, we literally have a lot more money now because we just keep creating it. Yeah. We added 20% to the US dollar total amount during the pandemic.
Oh, we printed more money in the last 4 years or 3 years than like the totality of the United States or something like that. It's
fucking nuts. And by printed, you mean did not print. We just made it up in a computer, and now some asshole in a penthouse having his asshole bleached is richer than anyone can ever imagine.
And we just bailed out another bank yesterday.
Yeah. So the operation had 3 aspects: direct action against refugee ships, a black propaganda campaign, and a deception scheme to disrupt immigration from Black Sea ports. A team of former special operations executive agents with the cover story of a yachting trip was sent to France and Italy with bombs and timers. Always good to pretend you're a yachting trip.
Going on the high seas, old boy? Yes, sir. Just going out yachting with some bombs and claymore mines.
This is how we go fishing. We just throw these in and see what pops up.
I find the best way to catch a good fish is to put a bomb on the end of it and toss it out.
If captured, they were under no circumstances to admit their connection to Her Majesty's government, His Majesty at the time, but instead claimed to have been recruited in New York by, quote, an anti-communist organization formed by a group of international industrialists, mainly in oil and aircraft industries, i.e., to lay the blame on rich, right-wing, unnamed Americans. They were told that this cover was their final line of defense, and even in the event of prison sentence, no help would be expected from the British government. I think this may be the only time that the cover story was to blame it on rich Americans. Normally, it's the rich Americans blaming it on others.
Well, it gives me some ideas. Like we should do some covert shit and just blame it on rich Americans. You know what I mean? We should just set it up like, oh no, Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk did this. That we couldn't do this. We're
Yeah,
not smart enough.
I'm funded by Bill Gates. What can I
Yeah.
tell you?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's such an insane cover story. Rich Americans had us come over here and bomb Jews. That's
That's who believes that story? Like rich industrialists from America came over to bomb Jew. Like what is the threat of this boat of Jews to the rich American? Like
they
falls
had
apart.
a communist on board, clearly.
Oh. All right.
Blow them all up.
Blow them all up. We just literally got done with the World War, but let's do this. Okay.
During the summer of 1947 and early 48, 5 attacks were undertaken on ships in Italian ports, of which one was rendered a total loss and 2 others were damaged. So they utterly destroyed one ship and severely damaged 2 others. 2 other British-made mines were discovered before they went off, but the Italian authorities did not find their country of origin suspicious, meaning the mine's country of origin, as the Arabs would have, of course, been using British stores of weaponry. So basically, the Italian authorities find these mines that have not yet gone off, find out they're British mines on these ships, and still blamed it on the Arabs.
Wow. Was there just like a handwritten note, like the Arabs bought these from us or something like that? And
they actually left a post-it on the mines that said Arabs did it. So I think that should cover it.
There was some graffiti too that said like Brits are stupid. We stole their mines that they wrote on the bathroom. That really sold them on it.
Operation Embarrass even considered blowing up the Baltimore steamship called President Warfield when in harbor in France, which later became famous in Israeli history as the, quote, Exodus ship that launched a nation. So it became a famous ship later. The country that ought to be embarrassed by Operation Embarrass, indeed ashamed. Oh, so I wanted to read the sentence just because this is where Daily Beast decides to throw in some of their own propaganda, which is hilarious. So this story and the revelations and the article came out around the same time there was those flotillas of aid going to Palestine. Do you remember that? And several years ago, and it was all peace activists, very peaceful. It was they were filled with medicine and other things that Palestine needs. And Israel not only stopped the boats in international waters, but like dropped fucking, whatever the Mossad or whatever the Israeli version of Marines and Navy SEALs on board are, and ended up shooting and killing one person. It was horrific and like indefensible. So Daily Beast says the country that ought to be embarrassed by Operation Embarrass is Britain, which used explosives to try to stop truly humanitarian flotillas after the Holocaust. Okay, true. But now they condemn embattled Israel for halting politically inspired flotillas to Gaza, despite Israel's rights of legitimate self-defense.
Wow. Jeez. That's just, is this an APAC italics?
It says, thank you, APAC underneath.
Wow. This segment was written in part by APAC's fund. Like it's unreal. It just says APAC with a TM logo next to it.
It's APAC GPT wrote that last part. No.
Wow.
And anyway, then Yahoo News has an article about this as well that said British did it in order to curry favor with the oil-rich Arab states upset over Jewish migration to the Middle East. Daily Beast left that out, I think, strategically, probably for propaganda purposes.
Yeah, that's a convenient omission by our good friends over at the Daily Beast.
Yeah. Anyway, that is Operation Embarrass.
Operation Embarrass, which is also the subtitle of this show's every episode. Well, Lee, I have a fun one. I love talking about what the CIA has done and covered up. We've talked a little bit about UFOs, but what came out in 1997.
Can we say you have canceled your fan membership of the CIA? Did you
No,
stop payment?
I'm still in the CIA fan club.
Okay, good.
I get my little badge in the mail every year. It's pretty exciting. I have a sticky, non-permanent tattoo that
It's a decoder ring that no matter what you insert on one end, it just always spells out coup.
No matter what, anything you put in there, it comes out coup. Just so we want to talk about how the CIA lied about UFOs, and you actually sent me this article, and I was like, oh, this got me excited because it reminded me of several projects that I'm going to go into the whole thing, but basically the CIA lied about UFOs in the late 50s, in the 50s and 60s when we were starting the U-2 spy program, the spy plane and the SR-71. But it also was like, oh, this opens up all this stuff because there was a TV show I used to love watching as a kid called Operation Blue Book, which was just a fantastic piece of Hollywood propaganda. Operation Blue Book was literally the Air Force's job. And there's other operations I'm going to get into today. His job was to say, those aren't UFOs. It's a weather balloon. Everything's a weather balloon. Everything's a reflection off of somebody's backyard pool because they just wanted to do it.
So wait, Blue Book wasn't a real operation, or that was just the name of the show?
No, it was a real operation that they then made into a TV show in the 70s. And it was basically just these two, it was like Adam 12. It was the Air Force's, it was just like Adam 12 running around debunking UFO stories. That's all. That's what the whole series was. It was, and it came right before Love Boat or something like that. It was like, so.
And then at the end of each show, he had a catchphrase where he'd yell, "It's not a UFO, you fucking morons." That was the end of every episode.
Yeah, that was everything. They would swear on TV in the 70s like that. They would just absolutely.
They were hardcore back then. And then it would just show a big woman's pair of tits.
Yeah. In the 70s, you couldn't swear on TV, but you could smoke cigarettes on TV next to a giant pair of tits. So this came out. So this came out in 1997. This is a New York Times article. The CIA admits government lied about the UFO sightings. So we'll go into the general thing first, and then I'm going to talk about all these various projects that were literally, some of them designed to debunk UFO sightings. So the deceptions were made. The military lied to the American public about the true nature of many unidentified flying objects in an effort to hide its growing fleet of spy planes, a Central Intelligence Agency study says. The deceptions were made in the 50s and 60s amid a wave of UFO sightings that alarmed the public and parts of official Washington. The CIA studies says the Air Force knew that most reports by citizens and aviation experts were based on fleeting glimpses of the U-2 and SR-71 spy planes, which fly extremely high. These planes were developed in the 50s and 60s to photograph enemy targets. The U-2 spy plane was the one that was shot down with Gary Powers over Russia, right?
Right.
So what was happening is we were flying them over America. Most commercial jets fly at around 20, 30,000 feet. These ones fly at 50 to 60,000 feet or even higher. So we were flying them over the U.S. and some people were like, oh, that's a spaceship, because it didn't look like any traditional aircraft, because it hadn't been released. Like the military didn't release this to the public. So the American people didn't know that these planes existed.
And we didn't want the American people. Well, the military didn't want the American people to know because they didn't want Russia to know.
Right. Yeah. So they were flying from secret bases, mainly in California and Nevada. They repeatedly flew across the country and eventually overseas to bases in countries that included Britain, West Germany, and Taiwan. Some of them, so the U-2 gets up to 60,000 feet and the SR-71 gets up to 80,000 feet, which is right at the edge of space. They carried powerful cameras to spy on foreign military installations and sensitive electronic gear to capture radio and radar transmissions. And they were flown by the Air Force. So rather than acknowledge these planes, they said the Air Force decided to put out false cover stories, the CIA study says. For instance, unusual observations that were actually spy flights were attributed to atmospheric phenomena like ice crystals and temperature inversions.
Temperature, yeah. You know, when the temperature changes quickly and you see a UFO.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
See a spy plane.
You ever waking up and it's really cold and it's hot by the afternoon and then a UFO flies over your house? That's what happens.
You know, when the temperature changes quickly and then you feel like you've been anal probed. You ever heard that happen?
You remember that?
Happens to me every Wednesday. Yeah.
I remember waking up one day and it was like 65 degrees as a kid in Chicago. And by the afternoon it was snowing. And I was like, oh my God, I was on a spaceship for what was 25 years, but it only was a week in our time. You know what I mean? It was just the same
always,
thing.
Every time. Yeah.
And then I made some money shoveling sidewalks with an alien probe in my ass. So it was really fun.
Yeah, they should remove it. They did the same to me. It's like, listen, take your implements with you when you go, okay?
Well, that's what it is. All the anal probes in everybody's assholes, including ours, is why the weather gets all nutty. So this is we're just educating our audience.
Now, Graham, that last part is where you lost me. I think you've taken it too far.
Well, Lee, if you hate science, then I'm sorry to offend you. So, and obviously what part of this, and this is the New York Times, so I'm also going to go into the Wikipedia story, but part of this too wasn't just to cover up our spy planes. It was actual UFO sightings that had a bunch of generals and people going, wait a minute.
And this is the New York Times now, or in recent years, when they're willing to admit that this stuff happened years ago, whereas back then they probably were like in line with the CIA, like, yep, it was your pool cover that caused that to happen.
This is why you don't turn on a walkie-talkie during a solar flare. Like, so what they say, over half of the UFO reports from the late 50s through the 60s were accounted for by manned reconnaissance flights over the United States, the CIA study says. This led the Air Force to make misleading and deceptive statements to the public in order to allay public fears to protect an extraordinary sensitive national security project. CIA's role in the study of UFOs from 1947 to 90 was written by Gerald K. Haynes and appears in Studies of Intelligence, a secret Central Intelligence Agency journal. 5 years ago, so this article came out in 1997, so that would have put it in 92, the agency began releasing unclassified versions of the journal. And they put a link to the 1997 version. So the John E. Pike, head of the space policy of the Federation of American Scientists, also based in Washington, said the admission raised questions about other federal cover-ups involving USOs. The flying saucer community is definitely onto something. There are two schools of thought on the nature of such cover-up. One, from Mr. Pike and other aerospace experts, holds that many sightings over the decades involve secret federal projects featuring advanced aircraft and reconnaissance missions. The new admission strengthens that view. I believe part of this admission is to also cover up. We just had like a year or two ago, they've admitted that they've seen UFOs. I think there's two things happening here. It's our spy planes, but also if you're flying at 60, 70,000 feet, you saw some spaceships, you saw some UFOs, and there's numerous, dozens of Air Force pilot interviews saying, I saw an aircraft fly that defied all of our
gravity, all ability. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And I watched just one or two of these like scientific debunking of the admissions that they've so all they've admitted is that all the Pentagon has admitted in these admissions is that they've seen things they can't identify, hence the name unidentified flying object. People think UFO equals alien, but so they've seen things they can't identify. And when you watch the video, it looks pretty fucking crazy. But then I've watched just a couple of these kind of, a scientist somewhere spending 20 minutes debunking some of these videos. And it's incredibly convincing that it's not anything that crazy. It's like, the guy, the guy was at 60,000 feet. He bit into his hamburger and mayonnaise is dripping down his radar screen or something. But I'm just kidding around. But seriously, the debunkings are very convincing that this is nothing that crazy.
Well, And in all fairness here, I'm not defending the CIA, but yes, it stands to reason that a fair amount of somebody sees something in their backyard, they don't know what it is. They take a photo, especially back then where the cameras weren't as sophisticated. Like your iPhone is way more sophisticated than any camera anybody had back then, right?
The camera back then was a guy drawing it. Yeah. He'd run into your yard. He'd say, "Get Jebediah," and he'd come sprinting in with a paintbrush.
I love that your depiction of 1950s technology is literally from like the 1800s. I love that that's where your science.
Hold on. Did you say you were alive during this, Graham?
But like it stands to reason that some of these are just people seeing crazy stuff, and they because I've seen you could mistake, a lot of mistakes could happen. So let's take that some of these are just
and back then the drugs were more pure. They were less cut with bullshit. So it was just better stuff, man.
So, but then there still is
some that leave a question.
Some that leave a huge question mark. And why I believe that this was deliberate is because on Wikipedia, again, I'm going to go into all of these, the precursors to Project. So Project Blue Book was, so what happened? Project Blue. So Captain Edward J. Ruppel, by the end of 1951, several high-ranking, very influential U.S. Air Force generals were so dissatisfied with the state of Air Force UFO investigations that they dismantled Project Grudge. So there's a bunch of previous projects. So what they did, Project Blue Book was from March of 52 to its termination in December of 1969. They were headquartered at Air Force Base in Ohio, and it was initially directed by Captain Edward Ruppel, as I said. And there were other projects such as Project Sign, established in 1947, and Project Grudge, established in 1948. Project Blue Book had two goals, namely to determine if UFOs were a threat to national security and to scientifically analyze UFO-related data. So this is what a report that came out of the National Academy of Sciences, Project Blue Book, was terminated in 1969. So they said no UFOs were reported, investigated, and evaluated by the Air Force was ever an indication as a threat to our national security. So they identified UFOs. They said, we don't know what this is. It's not an aircraft. It's nothing. It's not like Russia's aircraft or any of our adversaries, or we don't know what it is, but none of them posed a threat, right? There was no evidence submitted to or discovered by the Air Force that sightings categorized as unidentified represented technological developments or principles beyond the range of modern scientific. Well, that's, I know it to be bullshit. There was no evidence indicating that sightings categorized as unidentified were extraterrestrial vehicles. So that's part of Project Blue Book determination, in my opinion, was to say, oh, these aren't spacemen. These aren't spaceships. Like, we don't know, like to minimize it. But, and the reason I believe this is, let me read here. Project Sign, these are the ones that came up before Blue Book. Project Sign was succeeded at the end of 1948 by Project Grudge, which was criticized as having a debunking mandate. So, yeah, they told everyone at Project Grudge, debunk it. But what if we debunk it?
Right.
So, Ruppel, this is the captain that was that led Project Blue Book, referred to the era of Project Grudge as the, quote, dark ages of early Air Force UFO investigation. Grudge concluded that all UFOs were a natural phenomenon and other misrepresentations, although it stated that 23% of the reports could not be explained. So
23% is a pretty high number.
Yeah. That's right around 1/4 of all sightings could not be explained, but they just went debunk it.
Right. Right. Yeah,
So,
no, it can be both things. It can be that these things are not extraterrestrials. Also, the military doesn't know what the fuck they are, or our government doesn't know what the fuck they are, and also the CIA was lying and saying everybody who saw a UFO is full of shit and an idiot for years and years. Like, all those things can be true.
because you get to the 23% number, that kind of makes sense to me in my mind of 77% can be explained. This guy in his backyard, didn't know what he's doing. He had a bad camera. This was, the Russians
Yeah.
had a YouTube type spy craft, and we didn't, like that was as good as ours or something. You know what I mean? Okay.
Teenagers fired a bottle rocket that landed on the back of a raven and caught it on fire, and then it flew into Mrs. Craven's bubble bath or something. Yeah.
Sure. A young Evel Knievel was experimenting in his backyard and got a rocket in the air. Absolutely.
Right.
But when the Air Force has 23% of the sightings, and we're talking about tens of thousands of sightings. So you're talking, the total number of sightings is something like 20 or 30,000. So you're talking about almost in the neighborhood of 10,000 sightings cannot be explained.
That's a lot. I feel like I'm going to say a lot.
That feels like a lot to me. That feels like, and since Project Grudge was deliberately debunking, that tells me, again, this is a Wikipedia, which we always use Wikipedia, not because I think there's some fountain of truth, but this is the official narrative that they're pushing out for us, right? So that means of this 23%, there are some, I believe, that they completely flew by, and the captain of the spaceship was like, meow, 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 and like right into their, they knew like that's an alien. There's no, and they just were like, well, we can't explain. Like they hid.
What was that guy saying again?
Right. He was like, meow, 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 meow,
beep,
alien.
Boop, beep, boop.
Beep, boop, pop, beep, pop, boop,
Right.
Or he just said, hello, sir, I'm an alien reporting for duty.
What y'all doing there? Can I jump inside your ass for a moment? Yeah.
Hello, I am alien foreigner from other planet with foreign voice.
I am from very far away, and I have a very crazy accent.
I have accent of Hollywood actor told to sound foreign from mysterious land. So this is why I go, and after they dismantled Project Grudge and replaced it with Blue Book, this is what's interesting here to again, my theory of that of the 23% that they couldn't explain, there was enough people. So this was another important change came when General William Garland joined General Charles B. Cabell staff. Garland thought the UFO question deserved serious scrutiny because he had witnessed a UFO. Again, when he was a pilot, he saw it. Ruppel was the first head of the project. He was an experienced airman, having been decorated by his efforts with the Army Air Corps during World War II, and having afterward earned an aeronautics degree. He officially coined the term unidentified flying object to replace the many terms flying saucer, flying disc, and so on. The military had previously used Ruppel throughout. That identified flying object was more neutral and accurate term. Ruppel resigned from the Air Force some years later and wrote the book, The Report on Unidentified Flying Objects, which described the study of UFOs by the U.S. Air Force from 47 to 55. American scientist Michael D. Swords wrote that Ruppel would lead the last genuine effort to analyze UFOs. So this is the guy trying to make Operation Blue Book like legit. He ordered a development of a standard questionnaire of UFO witnesses, hoping to uncover data that would be subject to statistical analysis. He commissioned the Battelli Memorial Institute to create the questionnaire and computerize the data. Using case reports and the computerized data, Battelli then conducted a massive scientific and statistical study of all Air Force UFO cases, completed in 1951 and known as Project Blue Book Special Report number 14. Knowing that factionalism had harmed the process of Project Sign, Ruppelt did his best to avoid the kinds of open-ended speculation that led to Sign's personnel being split among advocates and critics of extraterrestrial hypotheses. As Michael Hall writes, Ruppelt not only took the job seriously, but expected his staff to do so as well. If anyone under him either became too skeptical or too convinced of one particular theory, they soon found themselves off the project. In his book, Ruppelt reported that he fired 3 personnel very early in the project because they were either too pro or too con, one hypothesis or another. Ruppelt sought the advice of many scientists and experts and issued regular press releases along with classified monthly reports for military intelligence. Each Air Force base had a Project Blue Book officer to collect UFO reports and forward them to Ruppelt. Each base. That's a lot of Air Force bases.
Can I just say I really feel for the people that confused Project Blue Book with the Green Book, which was the hotels that allow black people in the South, and they just like showed up to a bunch of military bases.
Yeah,
I feel like that'd be really rough times.
Maybe we were told we could stay here. No,
we were told. Excuse me, you with the gun. We were told we could stay tonight. Is that right?
And were there like aliens landing at like colored only motels in the South going beep boop bark bop, we need a room, keep boop back mark, beep mark.
And then the hotel's like, I know what happened. It's a different book. There's a different color. Anyway, you want to head to Fort Detrick. It's down the
Yeah. You can make your first left down there, you see big Air Force base, and then you talk to the Blue Book feller, he'll set you up.
We let black people in here, but not your type. So you need to go down the road.
Blurp, neep, norp, blarp, neep, norp, beep, blurp. Okay, yeah, man, just head on down. You'll be fine.
As the alien turns away, here's the alien mumble, "Fucking bigot."
Yeah, what a racist dick. Glig, glib, racist dick, Rick, glig, glig, gorb. So there was there's a whole Robertson panel on July 52 after a buildup of hundreds of sightings over previous few months. A series of radar detections coincident with visual sightings were observed near the National Airport in Washington, D.C. After much publicity, these sightings led to the Central Intelligence Agency to establish a panel of scientists headed by H.P. Robertson, a physicist of the California Institute of Technology, which included various physicists, meteorologists, and engineers, and one astronomer. The Robertson panel first met on January 14, 1953, in order to formulate a response to the overwhelming public interest in UFOs. Again, control the narrative. In their final report, they stressed that low-grade, unverifiable UFO reports were overloading intelligence channels with the risk of missing a genuine conventional threat to the U.S. Therefore, they recommended the Air Force de-emphasize the subject of UFOs and embark on a debunking campaign to lessen public interest. Because everyone was like, that's a UFO. Anything they saw in the sky, it was basically clogging up the phone lines. They suggested debunkery through mass media, including Walt Disney Productions, and using psychologists, astronomers, and celebrities to ridicule the phenomenon and put forward prosaic explanations. Furthermore, civilian UFO groups should be watched, quote, should be watched because of their potentially great influence of mass thinking, the apparent irresponsibility, and the possible use of such groups for subversive purposes should be kept in mind. So the final conclusion of the researchers of the Robertson panel was recommending controlling public opinion through a program of official propaganda and spying.
Boy, that's really is their go-to. Let's
when
just
in doubt,
control public opinion via propaganda and spying.
When in doubt, But the CIA doesn't, and again, using Hollywood, like we've done this before. This ties in this again. So many of our stories tie in. So we talk about how the CIA set up. We did this story about a year or so ago. The CIA set up offices in Hollywood in the late 40s, early 50s, and this coincides with that. Walt Disney started doing like, oh, Daffy Duck, he's a crazy UFO conspiracy theorist. You know, like he's a UFOs are a bunch of hokum. Oh, Daffy.
Yeah.
Let Project Blue Book tell you the truth. Oh, you just saw somebody throw a corn fritter in the air, whatever they said.
It's 90% of UFO sightings are corn fritters.
Yes, from Disneyland. Don't get a corn fritter go to Disney parks and get a hot, fresh corn fritter the next time you and your family go on a vacation. So that's pretty much how they lied. And then this is the final one. In December 53, Joint Army Navy Air Force Regulation number 146 made it a crime for military personnel to discuss classified UFO reports with unauthorized persons. Violations included 2 years in prisons and fines up to $10,000.
So what I'm getting from you, Graham, is Independence Day was true. Is that right?
Yes, Lee, that is correct. So that's Government Secret segment number 2, how Walt Disney hid UFOs in Orlando, or whatever we can say.
All right. Well, I hope people learned something. I feel like I'm leaving here a changed man.
Yes, we've learned a lot. Folks, like, share, subscribe, give a positive review.
And now we're going to do an extra segment.
Yes.
On Patreon.
We're going to go do This Week in Government Secrets. Go to patreon.com/government secrets. We'll be over there in a couple of minutes. If you are listening to this after the fact, you can always sign up at patreon.com/government secrets. All 20 some bonus segments are archived. So as soon as you become a Patreon member at any level, you get access to all of these old bonus segments, which are a lot of fun. Also, I've got a couple tour dates. Arizona, I'm coming to you next week. Phoenix, May 11th, and Tucson, May 12th. Get your tickets at grahamelwood.com. I don't have a lot of tour dates left over the summer because there's some other projects I'm working on. Anything Can Happen game show. So go, if you're in Arizona, come out to a live show. They're cool. That's Stir Crazy Comedy Club.
Also, with Phoenix show, I heard, is this true? You're bringing water. Is that true?
I'm bringing water and UFO sightings.
There will be water in Phoenix.
There will be water in Phoenix and the screening room in Tucson. I went to college, University of Arizona. So come out, support a live show, guys, because we're both censored really heavily. So when you come support a live show, you support what we're doing, and it's a lot of fun. So go to grahamelwood.com for tickets and sign up for my newsletter too, because that's another way I can't get censored. If I have a big email list, that the social media companies can throttle us, and it's hard for us to have direct contact with you fans. So if you sign up to our newsletter, we can have direct access to you, and a big tech overlord cannot take away a newsletter. So,
and I'm at leecamp.net. I hope you will support me over there, but also come join us on Patreon right now for another amazing segment.
Go to patreon.com/government secrets. This is Bad Government Secrets, episode 121 with Lee Camp and Graham Elwood. Brits are embarrassed and the CIA hides UFOs in Disneyland.
And I don't mean to give anything away, but I'm doing the Patreon segment topless, meaning I'm not going to wear a hat.
It's kind of our OnlyFans. We treat Patreon like our OnlyFans. I'm going to be rubbing my feet with oil. So if you're into foot fetishes, come over to Patreon.
He's not going to point the camera at them, but he will let you know he's rubbing his feet with oil.
Yes. You'll just hear oil foot sounds.
Oil foot sounds. That was one of my favorite albums. I believe it was that super group with Boy George and Metallica.
Oh, oil foot sounds. That was such a departure, and their diehard fans got so mad, but it was so great. It was just like,
it was so great. Yeah,
it was amazing. It's like Brian Williams with Pet Sounds. It just really, it changed music.
Oily foot sounds. All right. See you on Patreon.
All right, buddy. We'll see you over there.
Later.
Dan Bird, thanks for the coverage here, comedian. Shaving Knuckles for Justice. Dan, thank you for supporting our show. Thank you, everybody. Jump on over to patreon.com/government secrets. We will be over there in like 2 minutes. And thank you to Holly Horn and Blaze Saver Wolf and everybody in the chat. Like, share, and subscribe. All those little things. Follow us on social media. I'm at Graham Elwood. Go to grahamelwood.com. Sign up for my newsletter. You get a free vegan smoothie recipe. And I appreciate all of you for supporting our show. We had a nice turnout today. So we're doing it every Thursday, 5 o'clock Pacific, 8 o'clock Eastern for Government Secrets. Unless, of course, we change the time again, which will probably happen soon. So join us next week at 5 o'clock and 8 until that changes again. All right. Thanks, everybody.